Ramaphosa is speaking after receiving those investment pledges. Let's see what he has to say.
Of our country and create many new jobs. I know that companies that have made announcements are going to keep true to the announcements that they have made, and they are also ready to move ahead to ensure that they actually implement the pronouncements that they have made here. And I'd like to believe that they will do so with determination and turn those investment commitments into new businesses, into increased production lines in their own businesses, and in the end create new jobs and new opportunities. We are all aware that the global economic situation is a bit challenging at the moment and weakening, and that you as investors, either as new ones and as continuing investors, you have a vast array of choices around the world and including our own continent, and that many other countries and opportunities are competing for your attention. But you have chosen South Africa to come and invest here in our land. The fact that you have come to this conference and in such numbers shows the great faith you have in our country and its great potential that has been demonstrated to you, not only in the investment book that you received, but also in terms of talking to a number of South Africans, including government officials and ministers who've been here. You, like us, are excited by the sheer breadth of opportunities that South Africa offers and the potential returns that they can deliver. There is a Confucian proverb that goes, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." That is so apt, because the commitments made at last year's conference and those that have been made today have placed us firmly on the path to achieve our ambitious target of securing $100 billion or 1.2 trillion rand over the next 5 years. At the end of our first investment conference last year, we had a sense that we did succeed in carrying away many small stones from the mountain. But today, our sense of achievement is even much more enhanced, as we are now, from today's conference, carrying away the big stones from the mountain, firmly believing that in the years to come we are going to be carrying away boulders, the biggest stones from this mountain. The commitments made today are numerous, but the other important and wonderful thing is that they are diverse. These commitments are, in my view, a reflection of the diversity of the opportunities in the South African marketplace. While there has been demonstrable interest in mega projects, investors are also focusing on smaller but more employment-intensive projects. This, for us, is a wonderful development. This is aligned to our broader strategic vision of catalyzing economic activity in our districts, in our municipalities, and in our provinces. Our investment drive is taking place in tandem with a range of economic developments, from the opening up of special economic zones that I spoke about this morning, to also reviving industrial parks that were developed many years ago and had become derelict and were not being much used. We have revived those and continue to revive them, and it is also taking place as we are supporting community business centers, particularly in the rural areas as well as in the township where the majority of our people live. We're also focusing on small business incubators and supporting entrepreneurship activities amongst our people, particularly those who were previously prevented from participating in meaningful businesses in various parts of our country. So I'm immensely pleased to announce that the total value of investment commitments made today at our second South African Investment Conference is in the order of 363 billion rand. Now, I don't know how one begins to count that amount of money, but it is indeed 363 billion rand. Minister Patel, who is very meticulous in counting things, is the one who counted it to the last billion. And I kept asking him, have you not miscounted anything? He says, President, I've actually been very conservative. He's been conservative because we've received indications of a further 8 billion rand, which is planned investments that are still subject to board approvals, final board approvals, and regulatory approvals. So we have not included them, and we have not also named the companies, but these are amounts that are in the offing. It has been estimated that these investments will conservatively lead to the creation of around 412,000 direct jobs over the next 5 years. That is phenomenal achievement. And evidently, this does not include the thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs that will be created, the indirect jobs that will be created through allied linkages to these investments. Because as investments are effected, there are quite a number of other linked investments and job creation opportunities that will take place. This commitment of investments amounting to, if you add the 8 billion rand, 371 billion is still subject to the 8 billion is still subject to regulatory approval. But if you agglomerate all this, it is 17% higher than the commitments that were made last year, which is a phenomenal achievement. Now, for us to have achieved this great success in a situation where our economy is struggling is for us a real big achievement. It is an outstanding achievement and reflects the determination of those companies and associations that have made commitments to invest further in our economy. This is a clear vote of confidence in South Africa and in our economy, and a response to what it has to offer. But more importantly, it is a sign of confidence in the future of our country and the belief that South African economy is poised for growth going into the future. Because I'd like to believe that these companies that are making these investments have their own eyes onto the future. They have confidence that this economy is indeed going to grow, and we applaud them for their foresight, for their visionariness in terms of looking forward. I've been watching like a fly on the wall as I've seen many of you meeting each other, moving from handshake to contact and then to contract. We want those contracts to be dollar and rand denominated, so you should not just end at shaking hands. As you shake hands with somebody, just try and see whether there are rands and dollars that are part of that handshake and the contract that you are going to sign. The ties that have been forged at this conference, and we have found that at these conferences, from last year's conference and this year's conference, people are forging ties, they are establishing relationships, and some relationships will be long-lasting, and this is evidence of a determination by the investor community to not only be part of the South African growth story, but also the fortunes of a rising Africa. Now, as South Africans, we are heartened, truly heartened by the commitments that have been made here, as they are a vote of confidence in our country and economy. Over the past 18 months, we have made inroads in a number of ways. Our gains have been gradual, but they've also been incremental and noteworthy. Many people obviously want us to run much faster, and we are making steady progress. And this conference is also a clear demonstration of the progress that we are making. We are confident that these gains that we are making will gain further traction and momentum following this major demonstration of the investment conference that is now coming to a close. After a prolonged period of stagnation, uncertainty, and upheaval, I'd like to believe that we are firmly on the road to recovery. The recovery we are working for will enable us to address the challenges of unemployment, of poverty, and inequality that is so prevalent in our country. No country can afford a situation with such a huge proportion of the able workforce in its country is unemployed. In addition to the huge human toll of unemployment, consigning millions of people to poverty, unemployment clearly constrains economic growth itself and undermines social stability. Now, all of us here want to see a stable South Africa. We want to see social stability and economic growth. We have demonstrated our ability to implement a tangible economic reform agenda that is now showing that it can yield results. With greater investment, with more opportunities for business, for enterprise and entrepreneurship, with skills training and knowledge transfer, as well as the creation of more jobs for our people, and the empowerment of the women of South Africa, the disabled people of our country, and the young people. I truly believe that if we put this whole package together of improvement and empowerment of all the various components I'm talking about, our people, we will be able to achieve our goal of increased growth. Our mission is clear, and our determination is quite firm. Failure for us is not an option. We never look at the word failure in our dictionaries, because in our dictionaries, failure as a word does not exist. All that exists is success, and that is where we are going to. And we will not rest. We will definitely not rest, and that's a promise that I make, that we will not rest until we have restored South Africa's economy to health. In closing, yes, that we will not rest. In closing, I'd like to thank those companies whose generous sponsorship has made this conference possible. And this is proof of partnerships that we've been able to strike with the private sector as government in terms of putting this conference together. Anglo-American has been very supportive, Naspers, Vodacom, Telkom, Huawei, as well as Discovery. Let's give them a round of applause for the support that they have given. We also welcome the support from Coca-Cola and South African breweries. Let's give those beverage companies also a good round of support. And I wish to thank all those who have been working on this conference. From the moment we closed our inaugural conference, they started preparing for this conference. And I thank them for having taken the whole year to put this conference together, which is immensely successful. Minister Ibrahim Patel and all members of the Ministerial Steering Committee, which is a number of ministers in our cabinet, have done a fantastic job in helping to put this conference together and conceptualizing it. So thank you very much, Minister, and the other ministers. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Trudy Makaya in my office, who's my economic advisor, and the organizing committee, and all the government departments, the agencies and entities who've been part of this outstanding effort. I'd also like to thank the Presidential Investment Envoys, Mr. Jaco Marie, Mr. Trevor Manuel, Ms. Phumzile Langeni, Mr. Cebisi Jonas, and above all, I want to thank all of you for your attendance and for your participation. And to our international guests, I trust that you will take time and take advantage of your presence here to see the sights and the sounds of South Africa, simply the most beautiful country in the whole world, which God took a lot of time putting together. I hope you will take time to go around this most beautiful country before you return to your homes. But lastly, I'd like to thank all of us for being part of this conference. This is really heartwarming, and we thank you because your participation here has resulted in the potential of creating easily more than 400,000 jobs for South Africans, and also investing 363 billion rand. That is a great achievement, and thank you very much. Thank you so much indeed.
All right, that is